And now I will invite Sue to please welcome and introduce our speaker. Thank you, Sue.
Good morning for Portland, Oregon, where it's rainy. I'm really excited that all of you are going to get a chance to hear from my colleague and friend, Venus. Venus and I have known each other for many, many years. She's a Montessori child all the way through. Her mother is really a respected Montessorian, Patricia Reedy, and I've known Patricia also for many years longer than I've known Venus. I had the good fortune to be able to hire Venus to come to Childpeace while I was the head of school, and she is working there with an amazing group of skilled Montessori guides at the Children's House level. And I think the rest will be left said when you hear Venus and the thoughtful and articulate way that she describes and thinks with great detail about what she does. And I will say as a footnote that Venus and I have this weird, geeky ability to sit around over a glass of wine and talk way too long about exactly where something should be put on the shelf in a Children's House classroom. So welcome, Venus.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you for the lovely introduction. And thank you to Mirka for the invitation to join the community today. I am in my classroom. It's still dark outside, but I've opened the blinds so that I'll have some signals as the day progresses. I want to begin by saying that there isn't one right way to approach using masks in the Children's House. I'm going to share some ideas and I'm going to share my thought process because I think it's the thought process that will be the most helpful to all of you when you're planning your next steps in your community environment, or if you're in an administrative role, supporting classroom staff. It wasn't natural for me to start wearing a mask, so I'm going to talk about that also. I was a little intimidated and put off by the idea of trying to support the whole child and the development of the whole child while my face was partially covered and their faces were partially covered. So I used the same cycle that I always do when I'm working with the children. The first is the spiritual preparation or the preparation of myself, experimentation with the children, observation, interpretation, reflection, and then making some adjustments. A continuous cycle that those of us working with children we're always in. My story is that in March 13th, our school closed. The governor closed the schools in our state, and just within a week or so, issued a stay home, save lives order. So we knew that we were going to be home for a while. And in early April, it became necessary for at least adults to start wearing masks when they were out and about in public. And I realized we need to talk to the children about this. My own children are teenagers now, 18 and almost 15, so I didn't have a reminder in my home, but I'm very closely connected with my nephew who's 4 years old and is in my class at Childpeace. And so I think it was being aware of him and what he would be seeing that really told me right away, we need to talk to the children. They might be concerned, they might be frightened. Why are people wearing masks all of a sudden? They might be out on a walk in their neighborhood and see people in masks. They could be riding their bike. I don't think we could go to the park anymore then. But anyway, I knew that children would start to see masks. So I wrote an email to the parents in my classroom community and gave some suggestions for how to prepare their children for starting to see people in masks. I made suggestions like referencing that every person and every family has their own particular germs. Our own germs don't usually make us sick, but sometimes we can become sick when we share germs. And so, if it was the mom, I'm going to wear a mask when I go to the grocery store, or the dad would wear a mask when he goes to the grocery store, and encourage them to talk about it a little. Then, maybe a week or so later, I was able to attend a really fantastic webinar given by Jennifer Shields at Washington Montessori Institute. And her presentation was about supporting the development of language in the home while our schools were closed, but we were trying to continue to offer support. And it was a great webinar, and it's available, I think, at the WMI site to watch, and also at the Montessori Institute of North Texas. I know they offered a link also. And in her presentation, Jennifer gave a slideshow about masks and the history of masks and their cultural, not affiliation, but their cultural roots. And that was really fantastic for me because I'm not super digitally oriented. And I hadn't thought to make something, I don't know that I would have thought to make something digital like this. So Jennifer shared the presentation and invited all of us to use it as we needed to or would like to. And so I'm going to share a little bit of that now with all of you so that you can see how those of us who had access to Jennifer's Google Slides presentation, how we were able to share it with the families that we work with to support the idea of masks being around for a very long time, longer than I've been alive, longer than the children's mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers, and on and on and on and on. So let me run through a little bit of that. It's available for you to look at on those sites I mentioned. So I'm not going to go slowly through the whole thing. I just want to give you a little taste. America, am I on the right one?
It's got the square across it, but try to click to the next page and see if it stays or if it's, yeah.
So are you all seeing the first slide where I introduce the ideas? Okay, I might be stuck there and Sveta might need to take over. So this was the digital presentation that I was able to share on our Google Drive with the families in my community. My colleague Stephanie was able to copy it from Jennifer's webinar and make it available to us. And the first slide is the introduction of the concept of let's talk about masks. They've been around for a long time. There we go. And getting some familiarity and comfort around masks. I told a little story that in my family, my husband was doing the grocery shopping for our family and he made himself a mask. He used material from my mom's classroom that we still had. I think it had previously been some dusting cloth material. And and this was the original presentation. I adapted it later, but in this presentation, I let parents know that he was the only one who had a mask because I didn't know how far this was going. So will you advance to the next slide? So here's where Jennifer began in her mask presentation with giving some historical context for masks. We could see the next one, please. This one I think resonates with children because many children have a tradition of dressing up for Halloween. You of course would adapt this if your culture doesn't celebrate that holiday, but certainly children in many cultures that don't celebrate Halloween probably do enjoy wearing decorative masks. Next one, please. Ski mask. So right away, we moved from specifically the historical and cultural roots to sports and very contemporary. Thank you, Sveta. Snorkeling. I've never snorkeled. Many people have. The idea is you would talk through this at home. We can take the next one, please. There's a very ancient mask. Maybe Sveta, you'll continue to click through and I will say a little bit more about a way we could use this in the environment. So in our school, some of us printed this presentation to look at with children or share as a booklet because now we're back at school. So if you are working with children, you might like to adapt something like this. In our community, we're doing a lot of work on raising children's awareness about the Native people in our area. So my presentation or little booklet I would share with the children now has some Chinook masks, Salish, and other First Nations tribes.
Let me know where I should stop, if I should stop the sharing, Venus.
Thank you. In the last slide in this presentation today is ends with the type of mask that looks most similar to what we're wearing now. Thank you.
Should I stop the share?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. So that was something I shared with families while we were all still home. That was in April. We reopened for summer school at the end of June, and our licensing body, the Oregon Department of Education's Early Learning Division, did not require children and classroom staff to wear masks in the classroom yet. Our school did require staff to wear masks when we left our environments and went into the common spaces, but within the environment, with our stable group of 10, we didn't need to wear them. And that changed maybe by the third week of summer school. And we now wear masks, face masks in the classrooms, all of the classroom staff, all of the, everybody in our building, facilities, admin, everyone. And the requirement is for children 5 years and older to wear masks, and it's strongly recommended for children in our classrooms from 2.5 or 3 to 5. Let me see. I think I want to talk a little bit more about the process that I had to go through. I told you that in the beginning, I wasn't really very happy about thinking about doing my work without the tools of engagement that are so vital to my experience with the children, or without the full use of those tools. Facial expressions, tone of voice, and clarity of speech. I knew these would be affected with a mask. I also knew that even though I believe in impermanence, this is not a temporary situation, and that it is very important for all of us working with children to embrace what we need to do to be in community with them. So I'm a verbal processor. I had to talk to my friends, talk to my husband, talk to my mom, talk to Sue, and really sort of work out the feeling of distress is too strong of a word, but that discomfort, because the masks also remind us always that we're experiencing the pandemic. It used to be that when I would be in the Willow Room, I didn't think about any concerns. It was really a totally safe haven, a place just to be in the moment with the children. So I needed to prepare myself to get back to that place, and that has happened through all of the work of observing the children and talking with my colleagues and talking to myself, and working on preparing the physical environment and the emotional environment. Another thing that we did during the closure that I didn't mention before, I think all my colleagues and I did, is we sent photos to our families of what we look like in our masks so that children could have a first experience of that before they came to be in our care again. So I asked myself, what new tools do I need? How will I supplement my skill set? And I really thought about the emotional environment. And that is usually where I begin. I usually sit in the emotional environment, move to the physical, back to the emotional, and then it's back and forth and back and forth. But whenever I'm going to do something new with the children, I have to think about my intention and the emotional tone that I want to create with the children. So things I thought about in terms of the emotional environment: how will I respond when the children don't hear me clearly or don't understand me? Will I use hand signals? Sign language? Will we create some super cool Willow hand signals that we use in our community? How will I respond when I don't understand the children because they are wearing masks? Am I going to just ask them to repeat themselves again and again? One time is fine, but we don't want to ask the child again and again. So can the children use signs? Can they make up some super cool hand signals? What emotional environment am I going to create for the children in the Willow Room who are learning and speaking English as their second language? I have 3 children who are speaking English as their second language, and it's newly emerging. 2 who didn't speak in community last school year. I didn't hear their voices until we returned to school. What do I look like when I smile with my mask on? Better go put my mask on and smile at myself in the mirror. It might sound funny, but it's very informative. What do I look like when I'm not sure what's happening and my brow might be furrowed and I'm not angry or mad or perturbed? I'm just really trying to attend even more closely. What does that look like? In summer school, I was able to show the children what I looked like without my mask and with my mask, because the mask did not need to stay on all the time. So that was helpful. But now my mask needs to be on all the time in community, except when I'm eating lunch with the children or having coffee or water. What grace and courtesy will be needed to support the emotional environment? The grace and courtesy is the vehicle for social cohesion. So I knew we needed some grace and courtesy around masks. What will I guide the children to say when their mask falls off? Their mask hook, we have little hooks on the sides of the chair. The child can take their mask off to take a mask break. The mask might fall down. It's happened twice in it's probably about a week now that we've been back in school this month. We typically would offer to pick something up, but we're not going to offer to pick up each other's masks. We're going to say something like, "Excuse me, I think your mask has fallen," or, "Ocean, I see your mask is on the floor." What will we say to each other when the mask slips? On the 3-year-olds who are, they are just in it to win it with the masks. They come in the morning with them on, they attend to them, but they do slip a little, sometimes even down to here. How will we graciously let a child know, child to child, that the mask has slipped and could be brought back up? It goes on and on and on. You all might have, so many of your own ideas for the grace and courtesy about the masks. Then I also, of course, needed to think about the physical environment. Where will we get our masks? Are they going to come from home? Again, there's no one right way. These are just things to think about. Will children bring their own masks from home? My friend Teresa has a lovely in-home program called Casita. She made masks for all the children in her community, and she made multiples. And she keeps them at school and launders them there. So the masks are never forgotten. Will we sew masks and the children can decorate them? Will the children sew their own masks? Where will the masks be stored when the child is taking a mask break? They need time to take their mask off. No one right answer. I followed the lead of one of my colleagues, and our facilities, one of our facilities people bought me some little plastic hooks, and they're stuck to the right side of every child's chair, and the mask can hang right there. Where will we store the extra masks that children bring? Because the mask will get soiled during the day. Where will we store the soiled masks that need to go home to be laundered? Will we make bags in community? Will we decorate our bags together? Will we use, I think they're called ditty bags, the little waterproof bags that you can take when you're camping or when you have a young child who is learning to use the toilet. I want to see if I have anything else to say about the physical preparation. I don't know if you would consider this part of the prepared environment or part of the prepared adult, but I also need a place to store my mask when I'm not wearing it. And I need a place to store my face shield. We have, I moved it in preparation for this morning, but we were given full face shields. They don't substitute for a face mask in our state. Everybody's countries and states, of course, are going to have different regulations. And we recently received half face shields that have really been helpful with certain oral language activities, with sandpaper letters, times when we really want the child to see our mouths. Look, or see my face? That's all lost if it's all covered, right? Of course, everybody has their own licensing agency that they need to check with for regulations about face shields and masks. More about the prepared environment, about the physical environment. Do you have a mask in your sound game objects? Might you include one in your phonetic objects? Pictures of different types of masks, perhaps in your cultural folders. You probably already had some, and it's a beautiful moment to add more. Make sure that they're in every continent's folder. How about cultural cards, nomenclature cards, with masks from around the world on them? A set of nomenclature cards with utility masks, the welder, firefighter. Those are the only two I can think of right now. I also have a set of emotion cards that a parent in my community, who's also a staff member at our school, she found and sent me the link to. And they're from Diamond Montessori, and Katie found them for me on a website called Teachers Pay Teachers. And they're very beautiful small cards with different children and different facial expressions. And the amazing thing about this set is there's a second set with those same children and same expressions, and now they're wearing their masks. So you get to see what smiling might look like with a mask on. There's one for disgusted. They're surprised, you know, all of many, many different emotions. I also knew that I needed to think about and address the use of masks in the prepared environment with parents. At our school, and because of the guidelines from Oregon Learning Division, parents are not allowed to enter the building. So arrival and dismissal is happening outside our building, and our facilities crew did a beautiful job of using the hexagons that are in our school logo to make physically distanced markers on the ground for the children and parents to wait in. And of course, the parents and the school staff were all wearing masks. So when we think about that essential triangle, the child, the parent, and the guide, potentially now we're all wearing masks. Of course, some of the younger children are having theirs off much of the time. Ours are wearing them when they enter and when they leave. So it's important to bring those parents into this preparation because they are essential to our partnership. And we need to take the long view, right? This is not a temporary situation. It's not a short-term temporary situation. I certainly don't know the future. So I realized, well, I'll need to offer feedback to the parents about how their children's masks fit. I need to share types of masks, brands, with parents when I see some that fit particularly well and that children aren't fidgeting with. I needed to collect observation data on on the frequency and duration that each child is taking a mask break, to see if the mask break is driven by anything physical that we could modify. They could just be getting sweaty under their masks and want to take it off, but maybe the ear loops are too tight. Is it better to meet in person with parents when school is closed to children, but we have our masks on? Or is it better to meet on Zoom or as any video platform so that we're not wearing our masks and we can share our full facial expressions with each other? Maybe the right choice is a combination of the two. I've sent more individual email about children's return to school and their masks than I typically would at the beginning of a school year. Typically in September, I would be sending several community emails and then calling to speak to parents of new children and sharing email with them. But I definitely knew all parents need that special individualized attention right now, because we're asking a lot of the parents, we're asking a lot of the children, we're certainly also asking a lot of ourselves to be in community again, and for the parents to retain their trust that they've always had in our program and in our ability to care for their children. I personally am also increasing the number of parent meetings that I offer. I usually do there have been years when I do 1 in a semester or 2 in a semester, but I'm thinking I'm going to do more than that this year. Parent meetings where we're on a video call because they're not able to come into the building, and I share about our community environment, our community culture, and answer their questions and be in dialogue with the parents and have the parents have an opportunity to hear from each other and share with each other. So that is another way that I'm hoping to sustain the partnership between myself and the parents in these, I mean, I don't even know if I should call them new conditions anymore, because now it's been quite a period of time. I have children in the Willow Room who were out of school for 6 months before they returned this month. Some were back in school for summer school, but some were not in our summer program. Last week, our school was closed because we had in our state some really devastating climate-driven wildfires with really just tremendous devastation to communities, not in our county, I'm in Multnomah County, but in nearby counties. And the air quality was too poor for us to come to school. And so it was interesting because we had just done all of this work and preparation and bringing the children back, and we were here for 2.5 days. And we had to close early, and everybody went home, and we stayed home, this time indoors, from a Friday through the following Friday or Saturday. So I thought, okay, here we go again. The children have been in their homes, likely not wearing their masks. We're all going to need to begin building our skills, our endurance to wear our masks. We're going to need to begin again. Probably not back at the very first step, but closer to that end of the spectrum. And that was true, and it's going great. But it was definitely beginning again. The last prepared comment I have is that this is a moment of enormous transition for our movement, the Montessori movement. And it is similar to, you could think about it as a developmental crisis of the movement, similar to if you have the assistance to infancy training and you study the developmental crises, or if you have probably many other kinds of educational backgrounds. So I think what can happen for us is we are either, if we've done the preparation and we've had healthy development as practitioners, as administrative staff, as support staff, as loving human beings, we will be able to move into a new movement, a new moment that will be beautiful also, and we won't be stuck. But we do need to do it together, to share with each other what's working, what's not working, new ideas. And I think that we can step into our next developmental stage together. And I think it's really fantastic that Lead Montessori is bringing community together this way and offering community conversations and the opportunity for us to connect globally. Thank you.
This is a silent applause. It's a new thing too, silent applause. Venus, this was so lovely. Thank you so much. I mean, it's like you totally touched my heart with so many things you said. I saw people taking notes. I myself have 2 A4 pages of notes of things that were, you know, aha moments and the amazing practice that you have. And I just have to say, before we open the floor to other people to share, you really, when you said at the very beginning that you were quite, you said, I wrote it down actually, a little intimidated by wearing masks. I found that so authentic, how you just right in the first sentence showed you were vulnerable yourself, but then throughout the whole talk, how you showed how you dealt with the unpleasant situation in an incredibly positive and constructive way, always keeping the child in your mind. And so I just want to bow down, you know, if I don't have a hat, but I bow down to your, and I have goosebumps now. It was really, really wonderful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And so I will open the floor now to others